He asks the number. You want the number. Everybody wants the number first, and I am going to give it to you. But I want you to notice something about the way you asked. You said, "How much do I need?" You did not say, "For what?" And you have got it written down. You brought a notebook to a coffee. I like that. I'm not taking the mickey, but you have written the question down wrong, and you have been carrying it around for weeks. All right. If you want $50,000 a year out of dividends, and you want it from a broad American index fund, you need $4.8 million. Yes, 4.8, because the index pays about 1%, 1.04 last I checked. 50,000 divided by 1% is 4.8 million, and there is no clever way around that division. I know what you were expecting. You were expecting 500,000 because you did 10% of 500,000 in your head on the way over here. Everybody does that. I did it. I did it in the car park at 33, 20 minutes late for my own job, and I went in that morning in a completely different mood than the one I parked in. It took me about 2 weeks to find out I was out by a factor of 9. Why your number was wrong. The 10% is real. It is just not cash. 10% is the total return. Most of that is the share price going up, and you cannot spend a share price going up. To turn it into money, you have to sell the thing that was producing it, and then you own less of the thing. Dividends are different. They arrive whether you sell or not. That is the whole appeal, and it is why the number is so much bigger than you thought. And before you ask, yes, 1% is low. It is the lowest the American market has paid in its recorded history. Companies stopped paying shareholders in dividends and started buying back their own shares instead, which is still money coming back to you. It just never shows up as a yield. So you own the growth. You cannot eat it. And I am not telling you the index is bad. I am telling you that if the plan is to live off what it pays you in cash without touching the shares, the plan needs $4.8 million, and almost nobody who says they want to live off dividends means that. The number that is actually quoted. Now, if you go and find a dividend fund, a boring one, 100 large American companies picked because they have paid and kept paying, you get about 3.1%. 50,000 at 3.1 is 1.6 million. That is the honest answer to the question you actually asked, and almost nobody says it out loud, because it is not a number that makes anybody click on anything. 1.6 million. To be handed 50,000 a year for the rest of your life without selling a share. It is reachable. That is the thing I want you to hear. On what you earn, starting now, not stopping, it is about 22 years. You are 31, so 53. I watched your face do the same thing mine did. You wrote the number down anyway, which is the correct instinct and the wrong number. It is not the money. Nobody flinches at the money. It is the date. 22 years is not a plan. It is a sentence with good behavior. And you have just quietly worked out what you will be and who will still be around. What I did next, which you will also do. What happens next is you go looking for a way to make 22 years into 12. Not to get richer, to get there sooner. Completely different search, and the internet is extremely well set up for it. You will find funds paying 9%. They are real. They pay monthly. They have existed for years. Some of them have never missed a payment. 50,000 divided by 9% is $556,000. Look at that number for a second. That is the number you walked in here with, the one you did in your head in the car park. See what it did there. It did not offer you something new. It gave you back the exact thing you already wanted and let you keep it. You will not feel tempted. You will feel corrected. A man I worked with. There was a man on my floor called Rudy. 51, tired, sharp enough. He did the same division, and he put 556,000 into one of them. He showed me the payment schedule at lunch. $4,170 a month, arriving. It was real. I looked at it. And here is what everybody gets wrong about these. They think the trap is a fraud that collapses. It never collapsed. He got paid every single month for 6 years. Not one missed payment. 6 years later, he had been paid $300,000, and the account was worth $334,000. He started with 556. Do the arithmetic on that with me. 300,000 received, 222,000 of capital gone. He is ahead by 78,000 on 556,000 across 6 years. 2% a year. The boring fund he did not buy pays 3.1. They were not paying him a yield. They were paying him back. And I want to be fair to him because he is not a fool, and this is not a story about an idiot. He is still there. He is 57 now. He never talks about it, and I have never once brought it up. How close I came. I want to be straight with you about this part, because everybody who tells you this story leaves it out. I opened the account. I moved the money in. I sat on a Sunday night with the order screen up and my thumb on it. It was not stupidity. I had every fact you now have. Rudy had every fact too, and Rudy was 4 years into it at that point. And I will tell you something I have not said out loud before. I do not know why I did not press it. I have told this story a few times, and I always make it sound like a decision. It was not. I sat there for about 40 minutes, and then I closed the laptop. And if you asked me to explain what happened in those 40 minutes, I could not do it. The closest I can get is a 9-year-old Camry. There was a woman 2 floors down called Lorraine, 63, and she actually did it. Actually lived on dividends. 4 years while still coming in. And she drove a 9-year-old Camry. That was the thing that confused me. She had the exact life I was trying to buy, and she was in no hurry about any of it. I'm not saying I thought about her that night. I am saying I had seen that car in the same space every morning for a year, and something in me had already done the arithmetic on it. I closed the laptop. I told Priya on the Tuesday, all of it, including how close it got, and she said she would rather have 22 years with me than 12 without. She was not being romantic. She had done the same arithmetic, and she had done it on me. That is the only conversation about money in 9 years that actually changed anything, and it was 90 seconds long, and neither of us used a single number in it. The thing Lorraine told me. I asked Lorraine the number, same question you asked me, and I had waited a year to ask somebody. She said the number is not the problem. She said the problem is that it will not hold still. 50,000 a year is 50,000 today. In 20 years, at 3% inflation, the same life costs 90,000. So you cannot spend the dividends. Not all of them. Not ever. A piece of every payment has to stay in there permanently, just so next year is bigger than this year, which means 22 years was never 22 years. It is longer, and there is no version where it is not. And then she went back to her sandwich, because she was not making a point. She had been doing it for 4 years, and to her it was just the shape of the thing. I wrote it off at the time because it did not have a number in it. It took 6 years to understand that most people are not trying to stop working, whatever they tell you. They are trying to stop being afraid, and those two cost completely different amounts. The number I actually used. So here is the number I want you to leave with, and it is not any of the ones I have said so far. Go home and work out what your floor costs. Not the life you want, the floor. Rent, power, water, insurance, phone, food. The things that turn up whether or not you are well. Mine was $2,100 a month, $25,200 a year. $25,200 at 3.1% is $813,000. Not 4.8 million, not 1.6, 813,000. And it does not let you quit. I want to be honest with you about that. I was still coming in at 47, and I stayed another 2 years after I got there. What it does is take the floor out of your employer's hands. A bad manager stops being a cage and becomes a bad manager. A layoff stops being an emergency and becomes a bad quarter. You can say no in a meeting and it costs you nothing, which is a thing I had never once been able to do. The rent gets paid by something that has no opinion about you. And on the same money you get there in about 14 years instead of 22. Nobody ever told me that either. Nobody sells that number. There is nothing to sell. You still have a job at the end of it. What he asks last. You are asking whether I would do it again. I spent 9 years working on the yield. 1%, 3.1, 9%, chasing it, nearly wrecking myself on it, and not one of those numbers was ever mine to move. The bottom of that fraction was never mine. The top of it was mine the whole time, and nobody mentioned it. Not an advisor, not an article, not one video. When I finally told Lorraine I had got there, she sent back 2 words. Good. Keep it. And then underneath, she asked me what I was afraid of now. I sat with that a long time, and I could not think of anything. Anyway, turn the page over. Write down what your gas and your rent and your food cost, and then come and ask me the question again.